Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on Pharcyde TV with my co-host Jeremy Scipio.
What's going on, people?
And our very special guest, Miss Nichelle Murdock.
Hi.
Yeah, Michelle is good folks. So basically, this podcast is kind of like hip hop meets stuff, but it's mostly comedy, being that Jeremy's a comedian, gatekeeper of sorts on some type of a level.
No gatekeeper.
I always mess with him because he'll say that he knows a comedian, and then somehow we'll interact, whether he brings him on the show or I've run into comedians with him in person, and he really knows them. I mean, like more than just like a casual or whatever. Like, hey man, how you been? Yeah, that's set. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
This is a small community, man. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. Right there.
That's right. So Nichelle, where were you the first time you heard hip hop?
Okay. Let's see. The first time I heard hip hop. Well, I'm a 70s baby. So it was just there, in the 80s. And of course the 90s. But I think what really hit me was Curtis Blow's, These Are the Breaks.
Hey.
That was my shit. And my cousin, may rest in peace, Eddie, I remember going over to his house for a big family party, and we were all upstairs in his room, and he played that record over and over and over. That's all he played all night. And so I just fell in love with it. And it was like, that was it. So that was the first time I really heard it.
Did you ever think hip hop would be like the thing that it is today?
Because of the people that were, hip hop and the energy that it was giving, I did feel like it was something that was here to stay, and, just kind of looking forward to seeing how it would grow and build over the years. Of course, when I was little, I didn't know all of that. You're just dancing around, but
right.
But to see it being just totally accepted in the mainstream world and everything, that's impressive, but the staying power, it's there. It's a little crazy right now, but it's still there.
When did you realize you had a passion for curating?
Wow. Let's see. That was, I guess, when I started meeting a lot of different, I've always loved comedy, just grew up on, the whole HBO realm of comedy with Robert Townsend's Partners in Crime. And
oh, that's a good one.
That's still, it's so great. It's classic. And so just with seeing all of that and just being aware, and then of course, Living Color and Saturday Night Live, just being aware of talent. It's it was just something that, I love to laugh. I've always loved to laugh. And so I was just gravitated towards the talent that was on there. And I just started to notice it, notice the talent, as I was growing up and watching all the shows and stuff. It was I remember the show Soap, and I always think of Billy Crystal because Billy Crystal, I love Billy Crystal. And I thought it was just so amazing, and of course, what's happening now. I mean, not what's happening now, but what's happening.
I was the second. What's happening?
Yeah, it was just, so I just really noticed the talent. And so then as I started working out in Hollywood, when I moved out here in 2000, it was, I befriended a lot of comedians because I had worked on Comic View, and I befriended a lot of comedians, and it just, just so many of them that I had to figure out what do I do with them. And then once I started my show, then it just started, you start kind of realizing what you have, and you start just seeing what you can do with people. And it's exciting to just see the selection, the growth, everyone's growth, and just, I don't know. I just, it really just happened. It was something that just kind of fell in my lap, and I just did it.
You know what? It's funny because, like with myself, I've done music management for years, and I've gone out on different situations where I've had access to people that people would die to have access to, and it's interesting because, like, to give an example, I could try to reach out to, I'm just giving an example. I could try to reach out to, let's say, Timberland in the United States, and I would call a person of a person of a person of a person and try to reach out to him, to no avail. If it was if I wasn't working with an artist that just had millions of dollars or whatever, it would just be like, well, oh, Timberland, this guy wants to get with you. And he's like, well, what do you want to get with you about? You know what I'm saying? And he's like, well, does he have any money? Does he have a budget? And then it's just like, whatever. But I could be in France and something could be going on, and it's only so many Americans in a particular space. And if he happened to be there, then it's just kind of like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like you take advantage of the opportunity. Like, man, people would die to be in the same space as certain individuals. And it's interesting because when all the lights, camera, and action is away from a scenario and people are just people, I made some of my best relationships that way. Like literally, like I was in the hotel lobby, and speaking of, in Paris, and I met D'Angelo's manager years ago and whatnot. We chopped it up, exchanged numbers, every single thing, and we were both talking like, man, it's just refreshing to hear an American accent. And then regardless if I was at the top of my game or not at the top of my game, it was just a mutual respect because we were in America. But in America, in the United States, and moving around, it's more like who you know that introduces you to someone. And then based on who kind of introduces you, they know how comfortable they can be with you or not. And I don't blame that, because a lot of people, they just go for it. You know what I'm saying? And it's, there's a way to go for it, but you want to feel somebody out and you want them to feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to, you don't want to go for it all on the first date. It's like, man, you just met somebody. So yeah, that was, yeah. So I get it. But the reason I said that is because with you being in LA, working on these shows and whatnot, you probably had access to a lot of people that the average person would not have access to.
Yeah, and it's been, of course, an asset because of the location, the venue. And when I had to decide on, when I was like deciding on where I was going to have my show, which is weekly at the Comedy Store, we've been, October will be 18 years. And so, yeah, it's crazy. And when I was looking at where do I put it, where do I go, I wanted to go to a venue where it attracted industry, whether it was, the managers, the agents, the producers, the writers, the directors, all of that, as well as top level comedians. And so I fell in love with the Comedy Store after I came. I was invited by the Mooney Twins to watch their father. He was headlining the main room. So this was in 2003. And I was just like this. And of course I read up on it and I was like, I have to be here. I walked in there. I really felt that energy in that place. And Richard Pryor is like one of my all-time favorites. And just to be in there, it's like you feel his presence. I mean, it's crazy, I feel his presence when I'm there. But again, being there, I'm glad I did make that choice because it really made me totally appreciate comedy, even more because, and just what comedians do, and just seeing like the different levels, like Jeremy, you know, I've seen him from, oh, whatever. Now his name is on the wall, you know, so it's like to see him with less muscles. He didn't have, okay, first of all, he's like flexing right now, but when he has scrawny little arms to now, and it's
sexy,
like,
flexy.
Yeah, you know,
I'll put
so it can be bigger. That's it. See, look. And so, yeah, so I've had access to, you know, a lot of people, and the venue, as well as, you know, just being able to put on a good show and making sure that the comedians that are on the show, no matter what level, are top notch. You know, I love to give people a chance, an opportunity. That's the fun part. It's like, you know, it gets to be boring when you're just putting up all the comics, you know, that are just going to kill and be amazing. I love them. And, you know, they're a part of my show as well. But to see that audience sit back and discover that, you know, to hear a joke for the first time and see the room crack up, you know, just, and Jeremy, you know how it feels. It's like, you know, just a new joke. And so that's what I really like. But yeah. Having
real quick, I was gonna save some of this for later, but I feel like this is a good segue. You know, just to give you your props, you know, like Crack 'em Up is like a rite of passage. I mean, it has its own history, and it's tied to like the official history of Black comedy in general. You know what I mean? Like if you follow the timeline, this is true, because if you follow the timeline of like what Black comedy is, and a lot of the history and the actual, you know, the positive and the negative parts of the history of Black comedy stem from the relationship with Black comedy and the Comedy Store. You know what I mean? Like this goes way back to the creation of the Comedy Act Theater, but it's like, you know, no matter where they placed us in that you know, in the environment, in the ether, there has to be some presence. Like that's mandatory. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, if I get really real, they get the energy from us. You know what I'm saying? Like there are times where, they're just being real. There were times where the Comedy Store, all these clubs globally, you know, well, I shouldn't say globally, but at least in our country, where they were like, the idea of stand-up comedy wasn't as profitable. You know what I'm saying? But that wasn't as true when it comes to Black comedy. So there was actually, we were feeding, you know, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship, but, you know, everybody knows, like, coming through Crack 'em Up is a rite of passage. Like, it can't be missing. And I think even the Comedy Store recognized that, because currently they're doing no independent shows, like zero, except for Crack 'em Up, because they know.
Yeah.
They know.
And we came back ready. I mean, it was, I laid low during that period and just kind of, you know, just really took the time to rest. You know, I've done 16 years of the show every week. Just needed that break. But it's so nice to be back and to just have that space. And I've always, you know, no matter where you go, you're going to have your ups and downs with places and everything. I've been at a couple of other different places too. But, you know, one of the things that I really appreciate and love about the Comedy Store is that they're hands off with me. It's like, you know, just, you know, Mitzi had, you know, sent a couple of messages to me in the beginning and on how to like make my room better. And I remember one of the pieces of advice that was given to me was that if I'm going to, you know, nurture talent, young talent, I need to nurture young talent. And I took that as her kind of saying to me that I need to pay attention more to the comics. And because I was putting them up, but, you know, it's that other part that comes with it. It's like you can just throw people up, but then you can also, you know, take that time and pay attention to them and see where they're going, because, you know, I'll get opportunities, I'll get phone calls, and, you know, people are looking for comedians. And if I kind of know the path that someone is going in or going down, I could say, hey, you know, I've got this gig go audition, let me know how it goes, or, people will call. So.
But everybody knows if they not going through you at some point that they're not really popular in Hollywood, the comedy of Hollywood. It's just the truth. You know what I mean? Like straight up. People like, have you they do all these rooms, like, have you done Crack 'em Up yet? They be like, nah, like, well, ain't nobody checking for you. I mean, let's be real. Like that's the premiere stage. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, it's like for real. That's like everybody know that. You know what I mean? And that was it last week? No, week before last. That was proof.
Oh man. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. That was just the energy. The energy is how everything comes together. I pray before every show, like, God, please let everything go fine and let us make it through. Let us have a packed house. I do that before every show. Sometimes, before the pandemic, it was like you never knew what you were going to get. And now it's just different. And, just the energy. And, that week I knew that we had David Arnold on the show. David Arnold was our special guest. And yeah, and so David always kills it. And then I got a call about earthquake. And, I asked if there was room for a quake. And I was like, of course. And then Mark Curry, who was our residential closer.
Big deal.
Weekly closer. Yeah, he was like, I want to come through and close it out. And I was like, yeah, come on. Because he'll do about 20 minutes at the end, off the dome is what he calls it, where it's like a Q&A with the audience and just doing what we're just hanging with Mr. Cooper for real.
Oh, wow.
So then while Earthquake was on stage, Mark, I had been, texting him, so I knew when he was coming. And so Chris Spencer had popped in and he was like, if there's room, let me know. I'm here. And I was like, okay, cool. And then 5 minutes later, he came back and he was like, I got to introduce you to someone. And, it's packed in the room. I'm noticing that we've been selling out since we've been back, which it's been about 5 weeks. So this week will be show number 6 for the pandemic, all that coming back and stuff. And so the room is, already sold out. So I'm like, who are these people at the door? It's like jammed up. And, then Chris is like, it's Dave. And I was like, Dave, who? Because I can't hear him. And so he's like, Chappelle. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, okay. And so then, I'm like, Dave, and I've met him before. This is number 7th time I counted.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I always counted, but it's number 7 that he's performed in the room. And so, I asked him, I was like, you want to go up? And he was like, yeah. He's like, how many more comics do you have? And I said, well, Mark Curry, that's it. And so he was like, he'll, go up after Mark. And I was like, okay. And I was like, all right, here we go. So, Earthquake is on stage killing it. And I'm like, okay. And Mark, I went downstairs and saw him out there doing what Mark does outside and talking to everyone. And, we had Chris Spencer came down and it was like, Mark was coming to do Off the Dome, but had to work. And Mark, because he had to, follow Quake and open for Chappelle. And he's a master at it. He was great. Jeremy, were you there that night?
I was there. I was working. That was my first night working in Cracker. Dave was sitting on the steps, and you could see it was like a huddle around, and I'm like unofficial. I don't really care, but I gotta pretend I care.
Right.
So right. I go over. I was like, oh man, you can't be sitting on the steps. It's just like when somebody doing something obviously wrong. I'm like, man, hey, you can't be sitting on the steps. I put my hand on his shoulder. He turned around. He's like, hey man. I was like, oh snap. Hey, you can stay there as long as you want.
Right.
He doesn't. I never know if he knows me, or he remembers me. He let me open up for him back in 2016, but hey, I just play cool. I sometimes it's cool, sometimes he get really twisted. So I don't know which Dave I'm meeting, but this, he was cool. He looked at me, he's like, hey, I'm like, hey, so I just let him have his piece. But man, I felt like the energy in there was so like I felt like the Comedy Store could have fell over. It was so heavy in the room.
It was so great. Yeah, that was because, like you said, David, David Arnold did his thing, and then not to even go into the comedians that were, as I call them, rising stars. They were on the show. They have been hilarious, holding it down. I think I've put up about 60 comedians in the past, like 5 weeks.
Wow.
Probably 58 killed. And that's not even, I'm not even exaggerating. It's like, there was just 2 that kind of went, wah, wah, wah. But they still kind of held on.
Hey, we've been holding on to this energy for so long.
It's like you guys didn't skip a beat, honestly. It's like, seriously, you guys are coming with the heat, and I'm like, holy shit. You guys are doing it. You guys are really doing it. But yeah, that night was, like I said, earthquake. It was a quake up there. I mean, his name is his name for real, for a reason. He is fucking hilarious. And but it felt good. That felt great. So that's number 7 for Dave. Yeah.
It's interesting because I like old comedy. Like that's what I like. And like I kind of got traumatized maybe about like 6-7 years ago. I was coming from Colorado. We were almost snowed in, and I was coming to see this comedian who I really like. He's been in movies and stuff like that, but I was like really excited to see him. So the plane was stuck on the tarmac for like maybe 40 minutes, and then it was kind of like, are they gonna let us take off or whatever? And then we finally get back to LA. We arrive maybe 2 hours late. So someone picks me up at the airport, and we go straight downtown to go to this comedy show that I'm really excited about. And they were filming it. So they had rented out this nice old LA. It wasn't like what it reminded me of is kind of like somewhere where they used to do plays or something like that. It was a really nice place, a really nice place. So I'm excited. I go in, the show starts, and this comedy, who's one of my favorite comedies of like comedians of now, he goes up and they're filming it. And he told a joke like 3 times in a row because they were filming, and the joke didn't land. And then he was just like, oh man. So, and then he skipped on to the next. Maybe it was disheartening to me because I wasn't considering that they were filming something that was going to be edited and cut and just whatever. But when he told the jokes and they didn't land, it just kind of destroyed me. And I did not want to go to see comedy anymore. I was like,
oh, wow.
That's how I felt. And then, when I met Jeremy, I met him somewhere that had nothing to do with comedy. And he said he was a comedian, and it was funny because his energy of him telling me confidently that he was a comedian, I just knew he was on. When I asked Jeremy to come on the show, I hadn't seen any of his comedy. So he had invited me out to the comedy store. Was it the Comedy Store?
Yep.
Yeah, he invited me one night, and he was kind of like, he was just kind of like in a blah mood. He was glad to see me, but he was just kind of like, eh. So then I saw a couple of comics go up, and what they did was okay. And not to be on Jeremy because he's my friend or he's co-host or whatever. But when I watched what he did to the audience, it just gave me a whole new respect for comedy, because that's like, it is a talent to take the audience and to do that to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to me because here it is, I got turned off because I guess I just put too much on this comedian that I was going to see. And then I thought about it after the fact, and I said, you know what? There's so many comedians. You're not in the comic world. You know what I'm saying? You went to go and see somebody who you've seen in movies do stand-up. not saying that he's not a stand-up comedian, but you went to watch that and like, but because of the movies, maybe I put like more on it. Now, the total flip side of it, I do some work with David Arnold too, but I never saw him do what he, like, we don't have that relationship, do what he does. And then maybe about 2 years ago, somehow he directed me to his Instagram or something, and I saw these little clips he was doing with his daughter and everything. I was like, man, this dude is. I was like, but I didn't even get it with the relationship that we had, because he, you know, I don't. What people do is what they do. You know what I'm saying? I'm interested in the relationship that we have together, and then if it's more than that, it's something special. But I say that to the point. David is from the people that I speak to, he's old school a little bit. You know what I'm saying? He's been around, he's been around for a while. And like maybe about a year ago or so, I was flipping through Netflix and I happened to see I saw he was on something on Netflix.
Ballerina. Oh, was it his special?
It probably was. Yeah. It probably was. And I was like, dang, he is a real, like because when I first met him, I met him as a writer. Like that's what I kind of had met him like for doing, but I didn't get the comedy thing. But I wish a lot more people could have the experience that I had, you know, going to see comedy where the expectation isn't the highest expectation in the world, and people seeing that it doesn't have to be a star. It doesn't have to be this huge popular person. You can go and watch someone who's just talented. And what I learned from that night, I always felt that Jeremy was a very witty comedian. Like I've always told him, like I picture him somewhere in a writing room. Like that's where I see him going. Not to say that he's not going to blow up as a comedian, but I like his wit and the way his mind thinks. You know what I'm saying? Like very sharp. But I wish a lot more people can come. What night is your night?
It's on Thursdays. Yeah, Thursday nights.
Thursday.
Every Thursday in the Belly Room.
Okay. I wish a lot of people could have that experience, because it totally changed how I see comedy. You know what I'm saying? It totally changed. And I look at it, this is another question. This is kind of off, but with especially with COVID, a lot of people took to the internet to kind of do their things. And a lot of people who aren't necessarily comedians, but they're internet personalities. Would that be the right? Or kind of
influencers, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, or comics or internet comics.
People that do stuff online that's kind of funny. I'll call it that. People that do stuff online.
Internet comics.
Okay.
That's what I call them. Just
now, the interesting part is some of them can transition to stand up. Some of them don't even care to do stand. Like that's not even part of their thing. Like what their thing is just like. I look at them. I've heard the term comedic actor. You know,
that's another one. Yeah,
they're doing skits and stuff like that, but they have no desire to be on stage. You know, and do that. But it's amazing because I was educated in last week's show. I found Ryan Davis based on his the reflection videos or reaction
reaction.
Yeah. So I kind of found Ryan Davis through his reaction videos. You know what I'm saying? So I made the comment. I was like, man, it's amazing that he was able to take what he does on the internet and he's really able to be a stand-up comedian, but me not knowing my history.
Okay.
But I was educated. He was a comedian first, you know what I'm saying? And then he started doing that stuff. So there is another side to it. So with you, have you experienced people who are comedic actors that felt that they were ready to do shows, and have you had to deal with the transition and getting them worked into doing stand-up comedy?
Yeah, a lot of them. I've noticed that you have some actors who will do stand-up comedy to help with their comedic timing.
Okay.
So there's an actress, I won't
You
put
know.
her name out there, but she played a mom on a really popular sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were done doing that, when that's where everyone kind of knows her from. And she after that was just really trying to do the stand-up. And so she would come and work out, and she was funny, and it worked. And then but she knew that I thought it was cool because she knew her place in a way, if you can say that. Like, she knew that she wasn't necessarily trying to really go out and tour and stuff like that. She knew that she was definitely a stronger actress. Mm-hmm. But again, she just she was great, and that comedic timing helps. There's a couple of other comedians that were actually actors first, and they came and did their thing. And there's one in particular, Justin Hires. Justin Hires first came out to. Justin Hires is an actor, a stand-up comedian, writer, producer, rapper.
Rapper, yeah.
And a dancer, because he was in Drumline.
Yeah.
He was
wow.
So him and I, we didn't go at the same time, but we both are graduates from Clark, Atlanta. And so while he was in Atlanta, he was in the movie Drumline. So for him, he was an actor, and he came to LA and was focused on the stand-up. He was still, doing acting because he was in like 21 Jump Street when they rebooted it and stuff like that. But, I've always been just really proud of Justin, because he made sure he balanced the whole act of doing the sitcom and or not necessarily the sitcom, but doing the TV shows and doing the stand-up. And so it was different because he came out as an actor, and a lot of people come out wanting to be an actor, and so they'll go the route of being a comedian and gaining those chops and notoriety, and then taking the acting classes and just, landing those jobs. So I've seen a mixture, and it's definitely harder for someone that's already, and that took guts for him to come out and say, you know what, I'm going to do these shows and work out my stuff. And, stuff wasn't really funny in the beginning, but it's like, as with anything, you keep going at it, it builds, but it's like, as, if you're an actor that's on TV or in the movies, and, say, this is just the name, say, Vivica Fox wants to start doing comedy. It's like, it's going to be a lot of pressure on her. She can't just work out stuff without people being like, you suck, and all on Twitter, like, she was horrible. She's working out. So she can't really go into an open mic. But, it's, so it's, I've seen it. And sometimes, people want to have a different career path, and,
Not to put you on the spot, but who's a comedian that you knew had it and you really saw them from a pup develop into full-grown comedian?
Oh, man, there's so many. So many. Well, one I have to say is Tony Baker, because Tony Baker is the very first comedian that I managed. Okay. And for years, people have said, hey, you should manage comics. And I thought about it, but my background was coming up in production, television and film production. And the whole, development of talent and, curating, all of that was just something natural for me. But I had this major surgery, and when I came back, when I lived and came back to LA, it was like, I'm going to do everything that I might have been scared to do. So I said, fuck it, let's do it. Tony Baker. And it just was amazing to have Tony Baker host, Crack 'em Up, because every week for 3 years. And he just grew and grew and grew and just got like super funny. And it was just like, wow. So I remember when Tony definitely had more weight on him, and probably about 100 pounds more weight than he has now. And he made that little stage look even littler. He was like huge on that stage. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, so he's one, and I'm just so proud of him now, doing his voiceovers, and he's in the Spectrum show that if you're in LA, you see it with him and Kev on stage and Tahir. Yeah, those are amazing. So I wish him the best. And let's see, who else? Ron Taylor. I had, managed him in the beginning when he first came out, and to see him from when we did our show, and my sister Dawn ran our show in Detroit, and her and her partner, and they introduced me to the whole like squad that was there, that hadn't been out to LA already, like Mike Bonner and Spanky and Joe Blunt. Like I knew that generation, but Dawn was able to introduce me to that younger generation that was there, like CP and Ron Taylor and a couple of the other ones.
Last, I'm gonna let Jeremy get into some of his. I have one more. So you said you graduated from Clark.
Yes.
What city did you grow up?
Cleveland Heights, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy,
is that where you're from?
You said, huh?
I know, Greg. I was gonna say, is that where you're from?
No. I said that. No, Jeremy's from the mid.
From Ohio.
Yeah, from Cincinnati, but yeah, we got that connection. Ohio connection.
Yeah.
So is it Midwest or East Coast?
It's Midwest, but
Midwest.
It's Midwest.
But I'll say this is that this was the craziest thing. I did not realize that I was from the Midwest until I went south for college. And they were like, yeah, East Coast. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from the East Coast. They're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, but Ohio is not over there.
Yeah, I say
why do you do that to us?
Yeah, but we got the Eastern time zone, so this Eastern, and my family is from New York, so I was always influenced by New York, so I've always pictured it as Eastern, and but a lot of Cincinnati is more Southern based, more Southern influence. You know what I mean? So it was always like that mixture. But yeah, Cleveland is closer to like a more urban. It's a way more urban city than Cincinnati. I would say it's closer to to New York and Detroit. Hey, yes. I ain't hating. I mean, y'all crime rate is beating ours, so. I mean, I hate.
And when you graduated high school, what did you think your path was going to be at that point before you got to Clark?
Oh man. Okay. Oh wow. It was a totally, I knew like in maybe the 8th grade or so that I was interested in filmmaking, and the whole like, I didn't and I had these little Fisher Price people things, it was like, I just used to play a lot. So I didn't know that I was like producing my own shit, at that time.
Oh, you did.
But I forgot what we were talking about. I'm sorry. Who's the one?
Hey, and you know what? I'm encouraged. I started off with water, but I ended up with this. So now
the beer. Yeah. The beer. So, but what was? You were asking about what did I want to do after?
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, so I just really, like I said, I thought it was going to be because I wanted to go to Clark for filmmaking, because I wanted to follow in the footsteps of Spike Lee and all of that. But then I was also a dancer. So
wow.
I'm a, one of those black girls who grew up taking, tap, ballet, toe, and jazz. So I could tap dance. And so, but it was just kind of like, I just really also thought, because, when you're young, you think you can do everything, which you should be like that. But you don't think about, you're not going to have time to do that. But I wanted to be on Janet Jackson's tour. I wanted to be like one of her background dancers.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, and then I could make movies and I could do this and I could do that. And so when I work, I was in a dance troupe, we were dancing and everything. And then it was, man, I remember I auditioned for Morehouse's Coronation and I fucked up that audition. I didn't get it. And that was like the first time that I really didn't get what I wanted. And I stopped dancing after that. Oh my God. So it was like, okay, I'm not going to be on the tour. So I was like, let me focus more on the TV and film.
So what I like, that's kind of why I like when we do this show, because we get some really good like undercover information. Like I never knew that about you. I don't think a lot of people knew that about you.
Undercover.
That being said, we're live, so we have a couple commenters, that pretty much wanted to chime in. One person said, she's the best. Crack 'em up is a prerequisite, so they agree with me on that one. But yeah, one person said, it's Erica Irvin. She said, heights high.
Yes, that's one of my best friends. Yeah.
She got the tiger.
Yes, heights high tigers.
Interesting that you said. It's interesting that you said that about dancing, because I have a friend who was like an LA dancer, very popular, known. He was good. He definitely was good, but he auditioned for the Michael Jackson "Remember the Time" video.
Oh wow!
And other dancers that weren't as good as him got picked, and he was like, it kind of took his passion away to choreograph and stuff like that. It kind of just took it away.
He's like, I'm never dancing again.
I don't think he danced, but he was like, I think it took his passion away to use that as a vehicle to support himself, or to take. He went another route after that. But I think that he had a strong passion for dancing. Like, man, he had once said something to me years ago. He's like, man, if I couldn't dance no more, man, I don't know what I would want to do. Like he was a very passionate dancer.
Yeah,
but it was interesting though, because that energy that he had for dancing, and he still danced, but he shot it in another direction, and he did get the success that he probably would have wanted through dancing through the other.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Why do you prefer being behind the scenes, or behind the scenes style of things?
Well, yeah, I do enjoy being behind the scenes, because I like creating, and just kind of like putting it together and then just seeing it happen. And so it's just, and like I said, and it's weird because I did used to want to be in front of the camera, like I said, with the dancing, but it just ended up just being behind. I'm like, but I like to make the magic behind. Like I said, even in the belly room with me sitting like in the back of the room in that corner, I love that corner because I can see everything. I can see, the room and that mirror that's right there too, but I can see how the audience is reacting.
I'll be honest.
And who's in the room.
I'll be honest. I think I've been to Crack 'em Up twice before I met you. I didn't even know you were over there.
I know.
My first time.
It's like I try to hide over there. And Uncle Levi would be like, she's over there. And I'm like, don't send anybody. I'm like, that's why I'm in this corner. So Yeah, it's like a little cubby hole.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Also, okay. Tell us about your glory days working for BET and Comic View.
Oh my God, my glory days. Those are crazy days. Well, my good friend Deshaun worked over there. I just finished working at Oxygen. And I was working at Oxygen as like an associate producer. And so that job ended. And my friend Deshaun was a like coordinating producer over at Comic View. And I said, well, hey, if you guys are looking for people, here's my resume. And so they called me in, and the first, it was Black entertainment television. So, it was Black. We had to do, I had to do 50 jobs, but it was like, I'd only been in LA 2 years. So I was honored. It's about, you get in where you fit in, and you just, you're young. I was like 27. So, just doing my thing. But I started out as a writer's assistant because I've always written. I've always written.
Okay.
I like to write. And
okay.
But so when I had that opportunity to be the writer's assistant for Arnez J, because it was the Caliente season when I was there. It was when Arnez J and Bruce hosted, and so that was an interesting experience. And then I ended up staying on after, because this was like during the prep period for like, I think the first 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. And then we went on tour. So this is when the Caliente season, they went on tour. And Miami, Chicago, I think Atlanta, I don't know. They just went crazy with it. And so I actually had a chance to go on the road with them for 2 weeks. So I was in, we shot 33 shows in Miami. So I was there, and that's where I met the bulk of all of it. Wow. Yeah, it was 186 comedians. So again, I just met all of them, befriended them, and they actually were the ones that encouraged me to do a room. The comedians from Comic View, they were like, we need more rooms out here. You should do one. I was like, well, I don't know I've never done a room. They're like, we'll come, build it. And they came, and they're coming. So, I forgot what question you asked me.
Well, you answered it. Okay. We have another, from the peanut gallery. No, I'm kidding. The comment section. They said, is there any comedian that you think can create a TV persona like Martin, or be a staple like or create a staple like the Cosby Show? Sorry.
Oh man, yeah. There's a couple of them coming down the pipeline that I feel are ready. So I guess they're asking like to star in their own sitcom.
Yeah, I think they just mean like their persona is so big that you can see it, or just like show. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have to throw Tony Baker out there. He's definitely one. Because he's just so animated. James Davis, I'll say, James is great. He's the TV world definitely loves James Davis. I know that he's on MTV's Awesomeness, and, that's great. Let me see who else. I have like so many Post-its around. And of course, I can't find any of them. But yeah, those are two that I would say are definitely ready. I would love to see, Mark Curry do a reboot of Hanging with Mr. Cooper, but I don't know. That's like the only reboot that I want, man. That would be so great.
People say that I use Instagram for the wrong stuff because I don't like. It's a rabbit hole. Like, man, you can just, you can just go so far. I look at dogs and food for the most time. I was told I use it for dogs because I look at dogs and food. Mm-hmm. But I recently, I think because I follow Lunel, I somehow saw some of Mark, and like he's funny right now. I mean, and when I say right now, I mean I can just watch his clips, and I'm like, man, this dude is talented. It's amazing how talented this guy is.
And it doesn't stop. I mean, and just again, you have to come, to the show on Thursday and just
you gotta come.
Just sitting there and it's just flows. It's just natural. Another good one to have her own show. It's so many of them.
And the thing about it, it's once again, I think people, not to say people don't know, but if a person like me who's a consumer, like my thing was to go and consume, and like when I think of comedy, I'm not thinking that I could go and see Jeremy and just start dying. You know what I'm saying? I'm not thinking that I can go and see a Tony Baker. My mind is like, well, okay, Cat Williams, Kevin Hart, somebody huge that they're throwing out. But you can go to these rooms and you can see guys. And the part that I like about a small room is that it's not about lights, camera, and action. It's about somebody dealing with the crowd that's in front of them. And they can either love you or hate you. It's just that, it's that simple. And if you can watch somebody pull it off, that's when I feel myself as like a consumer of comedy and not necessarily someone who's a fan of the art and the craft and going to like all the shows. That's when I was won over. I was truly won over. I was like, man, there's something else to this comedy that you're not getting on TV. You're not going to get it on the movies. In a movie, you're not going to get it if you go to see this huge production, because there is no production. Like there is no lights, camera, and action. But anyway, you're
absolutely right.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm a secret huge fan of Arnez J. I don't think he get enough props, especially. It's funny because when I first was coming up, I feel like all my friends were like physical comics. Like, all the big comics were funny comics. I mean, from the Tony Baker to the Reggie Jr. It was so many comics that was super physical, and I felt so like man, how do I even compete with this? I barely move. I was somewhat jealous, but I'd say nobody quite moved like Arnez J. I feel like he made his movements count. You know what I mean? It wasn't just some big act out. It would just be like, whoop. Boom, back to it. I don't think he gives enough props, man. I like seriously, it's so funny because it was actually, I think he was the second. Let me see. I think Brett Kreischer, Tommy Davis, and I think the third real comedy show I ever went to was Arnez J. I even got his DVD. I mean, yeah, but it's so funny because I'm so different. Like all those
you guys are.
Totally different, but I like highly respect him, and I'll tell you how big of an influence Comic View was on me. I literally watched that every night before I went to sleep. Like there was not a night. My mother, because a lot of people wonder like how I became a comedian, what got in my head, because it wasn't on my career path like initially, but then if I think back to it, it's like putting all that in my head. Like I had from Ricky Smiley to Who Said Entertainer, Ricky Smiley. I mean, anybody's on comedy. Because Def Jam, of course, but of course I was a lot younger,
Right.
But I say Comic View, which was airing during my prime, childhood years, and it's just funny that you have an influence on me now, this part of my life, but then you also had somewhat of influence on me at that part of my life as well. So I just want to say I appreciate you for that.
And you're so welcome. I mean, it was I was there for one season. That was enough. But it's like, you've got these different comedy brands, and as Black people, we need more. And I mean, I'm ready to take mine, which is Crack 'em Up comedy to that next level and be able to bring it to TV and showcase all types of comedians, because, like you said, you had the Comic View that was, something that you were able to watch every day, from I forgot what time it came on, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or something, but they weren't necessarily, you know, it was kind of clean. And then you have Comedy Jam, which was, you know, a whole nother, you know, level of comedy, which was, you know, of course that came first, but that was harder, you know, well, harder, just more cursing and stuff like that, more raunchier. But it's really important for us to just, like I said, to have these brands and like you were saying, Greg, with the to like, I really push the up and comers, the rising comedy stars, because like you said, it's because for me as a producer and a booker, a promoter, all of that, you'll go crazy if you try to just like, especially in LA, because I'm in LA. So it's like to try to just keep the room filled with like stars. Mm-hmm. And my room was on a Thursday. My room is on a Thursday night. It's always been on a Thursday night. A lot of the road comics hit the road. They leave. Yeah. So in the beginning, it was always like, okay, well, I knew that I had to have a mixture. And the comedy has just become more sophisticated, especially Black comedy. It's become more sophisticated, more just, I can't even think of the words, but is that sophisticated? But and it's a good thing because it's opened up, because a lot of people are like, I don't want to go to a Black comedy club, Black comedy show, because they're going to be cussing, they're going to be saying this and that. I love, you know, I don't like to censor the comedians. I'll take clean, but I love the dirty, you know, just be yourself, you know, whatever's going to come out. But it's just now Black comics are just so much smarter. And, you know, even the older ones that were, you know, of course, on Def Comedy Jam, on Comic View, have been able to evolve. You know, everyone's had to evolve, you know. So it's good to see that.
I will tell you a quick story about how we met. You probably don't remember because I know you meet a lot of comedians.
Oh my God! Okay, Jim.
You are funny. I just want you to know that. Like, you have a hilarious sense of humor.
Thank you.
When I met you, it was 2010. You know, bright eyed, bushy tail. I remember I used to go to the Comedy Union pretty often, and used to give me a hard time at the door.
Oh man, sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I was doing my job. I was doing your job. The Comedy Union.
You was flexing on Jeremy, man. You were going hard on a young guy.
It wasn't just me. It was other people. But it's just like, you know, because a lot of comics, you know, and a lot of comics are entitled, you know, and there's a reason. But I'll say, like, the whole, like, we feel like just because it's a comedy club, you should be able to be there. You know what I'm saying? And it's, you know, there's a reason behind it, but at the same time, it's just like, if somebody goes, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, they not wrong for that either. Like, who are you to think that you can just be anywhere? But it wasn't that big of a deal. So anyway, I remember going in and, you know, she kind of go like, you know, ID, like, who are you, whatever. So she always let me in, but just kind of checked me a little bit, right? So I remember one time, you know, of course, I go to crack. I always hate when I found out about stuff, because you make these friends in comedy, but people wouldn't really, people have been friends, and I get it now because, like, I've been friends with people for like 10 plus years, but at the time, you know, I'm the new guy, you know what I'm saying? So people would meet you, but then they will all meet up other places, you know what I mean? They wouldn't tell you, they would be, so it would always be funny when I would meet people, like, I'd be like, yo, you was just there, why you ain't tell me y'all was going here? So everybody, when I found about Crack 'em Up, I was like, oh, this where everybody at. Right?
Because they're just hanging out back there.
Just hanging out. Everybody. That's what I'm saying. Crack 'em Up is a mecca. It needs to happen.
Those are rite of passage, man.
Rite of passage. But this is the thing. So I have to go to Crack 'em Up like once or twice. I'm like, you know, of course, you're like, how do I get up here? You got to talk to Nichelle. I'm like, what? So then I remember being at the Comedy Union. And, you know, of course, you know, she do her little, like, who are you? All right, you know, you come in, whatever. So then I'm sitting in the back, and the homie goes, she books Crack 'em Up. And I was like, wait, her? He's like, yeah. I was like, no way. So then I go up to you, I was like, hey, I heard you book Crack 'em Up. You go, what's that? I was like, I said, I was like, my boy told me you put Crack 'em Up. I said, I love the show. And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I went back to him and I was like, she said she didn't know what I was talking about. He was like, I'm pretty sure that's her. Like, what do you mean? She don't know what she's talking? You sure? So then I went back to you. Was like, well, I think I left it alone then. But then once I seen you at Crack 'em Up, you was like, oh, I was just messing with you. But I think your birthday, somehow I found out your birthday was going to be the next week. So I made sure I got you a card. Because I was, around that time, I was seeing you every day, but you ain't seen me go up. So it was just like, who is this dude? So I gave you a birthday card, and I'll never forget your birthday because of that. Like, I'll never forget. Even if I'm out of town, I'll never forget your birthday. But I remember I gave you a card, and you was like, oh my God, thank you so much. You said, these niggas never get me shit around here.
Oh my God. Oh, thank you.
She was funny, man. I knew who she was.
That was
her title. That's just not her title. No. But I knew exactly who she was.
Hey, she had
you kept putting comedian. I'm like, I'm not a comedian.
Hey, she had me going. I'm like, I felt so dumb. I was like, oh wait, you mean her right there? I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah. I was like, she was like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my God.
But honestly, you've been sweet. You've been sweet to me ever since. Like, we've done so much business together. I remember my first, not my first birthday. I guess my first year in LA. I did my first birthday party. Me and Jamar, let's do a birthday show there.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like literally all my friends. Your name means everything to them. So, I just like I said, once again, just give you your props. I won't miss a birthday. If I miss a birthday, I'll never miss a card.
Man, thank you, Jeremy. My Ohio buddy.
Ohio. I wanted to run this past you. I want to see if this means anything. Does the names Big Chuck and Little John mean anything to you?
Oh my God, yes. Yes. And that's so crazy that because like I said, just growing up, watching television, I grew up in that era where, you watch television. I'm Generation X. And I went home, when I was home for the pandemic, I was home at the beginning of the pandemic months. And I watched it. I watched John. It was like a special or something. I was like, this is
can you break it?
I watched it.
Can you break it down? Because a lot of people are not Clevelanders.
I want to know.
Man, okay, so, and Jeremy, you may have to correct me because it's like, so Big Chuck and Little John was like a sketch comedy show that was like on public, it was like the quality of public access TV in the 80s. So, horrible. It looked like, it was a little person. He was big. He was Little John. Was he? Yeah, he was.
When you say little is about how many feet tall?
He was probably about 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall. No, he's 4 feet tall. Yeah.
I'm trying to get an answer for you, but keep going.
Yeah, 4 feet tall, and then his. Sides, so they were sidekicks, and then Big Chuck was obviously taller, so they were like, Big Chuck and Little John, and they used to do these sketches, and it was like the corniest shit, but it was like fun. It was just so terrible, and it just was corny jokes, and then at the end they had this laugh that they would do. Jeremy has to do the laugh that they would do. You know how like if something is so funny, it was like this horrible laugh.
So the thing is, I'm actually not familiar. So I asked the Cleveland expert, and that's what they referenced. They said, "Oh, if you're from Cleveland, you'll know this." They also said every Clevelander knows about Norton's Furniture. I guess not.
Norton's Furniture.
Norton's Furniture commercial. It was a commercial.
No.
I think, okay, I have it pulled up right here. It's like this guy with glasses and a frog. Something like that. Is anything? Don't ring a bell?
No.
All right, let's get that out here.
I don't know what the heck that is.
Anyway, Big Chuck and Little John.
I thought you saw Big Chuck and Little John, Jeremy. In Cincinnati.
They didn't have it in Cincinnati.
It was that bad that they didn't even show it in Cincinnati.
Oh.
I had to suffer. It was so bad.
I tell you, I was ironic. It's actually still on air right now.
You guys have got to go on YouTube and see this shit. It is, but it was entertaining, and it was, I don't know. It was like, it was like the level of Benny Hill. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. They probably, I'm sure they were inspired by Benny Hill. So sad.
So,
all right, we get, okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Jeremy.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It works.
So you mentioned COVID a couple times, and with you having something that you were dedicated to every week for over 10 years, we'll say over 10 years, definitely, probably 15, probably longer. When the lockdown happened and you couldn't do that, how did you stay engaged with comedy? Or did you just say, you know what, I'm gonna rest right now, and then I'm gonna kind of decompress and then put everything back together? Or did you like immediately, like you never took your thumb off the pulse of comedy?
I took that break. And it was a break I didn't know that I like really, really needed it.
We all did.
We all needed it. It was like the great reset. You know, but it was, I was able to, you know, just kind of step back and, like I said, just kind of breathe. And I was actually in a partnership with 3 guys during that time when it happened. We were building out a digital company. And so it was like, okay, well, we did put our energy all into that, because it was like, okay, you know, Crack 'em Up is, you know, let's just see what's going to happen with that. But, you know, let's work on this digital company, because Crack 'em Up would have been benefited from that as well. And so took a lot of energy with that. And like I said, I spent the first 2 months of the pandemic home in Cleveland with my family, my parents and my sister Dawn and our dogs. And it was a lot of wine. But I was on the phone with them probably every day for like an hour or two, you know, doing the Zoom calls and all of that, but just trying to figure out what we were going to do. Like, cause we had plans, like everyone, we had plans. We were getting ready to, you know, tape some stuff. And then then it happened, and, you know, we didn't know what was going on in the beginning. No one knew. And so just to make a long story short, that ended up dissolving. And then we started another company, some of us from that partnership, and then that ended up dissolving. And it was like, we were like, okay, everyone needs to just step back and, you know, just kind of just step back, because we had just kept going when we started, I guess, realizing this pandemic is going to be a little longer than, you know, we kind of all anticipated. It was, like you said, seriously, like, what is the next step? What are you going to do? So the next thing I knew, it was like October. And so I was able to do the Comedy Store, because the Comedy Store was doing podcasts where they were doing the podcast there.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm not going to let COVID kick my ass. So I was like, hey, if COVID hadn't happened, October would have been our 17-year anniversary. So I was like, you know what? We're going to come and do the anniversary show. So we did that in October, and it was a podcast, and it was Zoom, and it was so weird. You know, it's like, because I said, I'm not doing any Zoom shows. Like, I was like, fuck Zoom. And I just I just couldn't, and I didn't want to do any outdoor shows. And then so we did the podcast, and then I think it was after that I did another one. So I know I did 2 podcasts at the Comedy Store during the pandemic, and then excuse me, and then at La Create Space, a Black-owned kind of like a workspace events venue, La Create Space in Inglewood. We were able to do taping there. So I was able to have Trey Elliott host and have 4 or 5 comedians there, and we did a show for about 20 people, because again we taped it, and I'm just gonna chill and just get ready for what's next, like when we open, and just kind of just because I remember Owen Smith had said to me one time when we were in the belly room, because I've always wanted to bring cameras in the belly room, but it was an issue, with taping and everything. And I remember I taped a show somewhere else, a Crack 'em Up show at the Lyric Hyperion Theater, and Owen Smith had said to me, he said, you sure you don't want to tape it in the belly room? And I was like, oh, I'm going to try it over here. And he was like, it's not going to feel the same. And I was like, damn it, Owen. And he was so right. It never felt the same.
Dang.
Because again, it's just that energy, but
that energy, yeah.
It can't go anywhere. It can, but for what I was trying to recreate and get, it's like
a different product almost.
It's a totally different product, because the belly room is small, Greg. Like I said, you got to come. The capacity is 100. It's a black box theater. It's small. It's upstairs, but the energy once once it gets going, I'm telling you, you'll love these rising stars. You'll be like, I always tell people, you may not know their names when you look at the flyer, but when you leave, you sure will. You won't ever forget them. And I've had a lot of people, they'll, inbox me. They're like, who's the comedian's name? And I send them the flyer. They say, oh my God, he was so funny. What's his, Instagram? And I'll, send them the stuff because they've never seen him before. So you guys are funny.
Thank you. We have another question from the comment section. It said, what are your thoughts on comedians having multiple writers, such as Kevin Hart, compared to comedians who write for themselves?
I think it's okay. It's a matter of preference.
Mm-hmm.
When you are at that level of where Kevin is, it's like he doesn't necessarily have all that time in the world to do stages. So he's got a team of people that will, be there for when he does go out and, check him out. But then he can go out by himself, and still do stuff. But, then you have like, for instance, David Arnold.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting ready to shoot a new special, the Cleveland Improv, in January. So he's getting ready for that. So his writers are coming to the show because they want to, they got to punch it up. So it's different times where, comedians travel with their writers, or not really travel, but meet up with their writers, or they're just coming to work out. So every time it comes, his writers don't come, and it's like, but when it's time to make some business, make business moves and tighten it up and all of that. Because again, our room is a workout room. So it's always been a workout room for the professional comedian. So if someone is getting ready for an audition, or getting ready for the road, getting ready, for a late night spot or their special, they come through. And it's been a blessing, because I know Earthquake is working on his special. So we got a preview of it. When Leslie Jones was working, when she hosted the BT Awards, she came through and, she kicked it off with us, tried out her material. worked the town for the week and then came back with the notes and, you know, that next Thursday and did it. And, you know, you sit back and you watch them on TV and it's like, wow. So that's always a great
in layman's terms, explain what a workout room is.
A workout room is more than, it's more than like an open mic, because an open mic is like, an open mic can be anything, but for comedians, it's you go and you just go up and you do your thing. So this is more my style of a workout room, which is giving the comedians that space, allowing that, not giving it, but allowing comedians to have that space and use the platform to feel comfortable to create and just not showcase. Like
without all the pressure. So without all the pressure of I paid all this money for this ticket and I want to laugh. It's more like you're not paying a lot. You're lucky that you can be in there. You're lucky that you made it into capacity. And you can actually watch this master craft what they're working on.
Yeah, it's just more raw too. It's just more raw. Like I tend to look forward to it because, just like you said, like a lot of places you are more showcase, but in that room, it's like the rawest. I've had the rawest memories in comedy ever in that room at watching that show. Period.
Because I encourage you guys to, you know, when I have someone that comes and they do the same set, like I understand if they're like working the set because they have to go on the road and this and that, but it's like, I've said to comics, why you did the same set? Like, I've heard these jokes. Like, where's the new stuff?
So some people, and some people take it personally. I never did.
Yeah, and I don't say it. Yeah, and I don't say it too much because, you know, I know that everyone is, you know, has a different agenda for what they're coming. But again, I do like we were talking earlier, you know, I've worked in different spots and if you have 7 minutes, they want you on and off in 7 minutes and they don't want you talking to the crowd. They don't want you doing this and that. They just want you to get on there, be funny and get off so the next one can go. But I don't like that. And I've been a little spoiled because being at the Comedy Store, I've had, like when we first started, I started at 9:00 and I had the room until 2 a.m. So, and then when at a certain point when they doubled up on the room, then I was like 10:30 and we would have it until about 1. But that, I get it if I had to stay within a 2-hour time frame, then you guys would definitely have to be tighter, you know, but you know, if I hear a comic and they're going with a joke and it's like they're killing it, I'm just gonna let them go. Yeah. Let them go. Some people take advantage of it. I had someone the other week, it's like your spot is 7 minutes. She did 15, and I'm like, you did double the time. You know, I'm like, I know. She's like, oh, is that the light? You know, it's the light. You know, it's the light.
Yeah, every time.
It's not the light. It's the light. You know, it's the light.
So,
why else would you be like,
Mirror to Society. You want to explain your role in that creation? You were busy.
Oh, shit. Oh, right. Oh, my God. How did I forget the specials that we did? Well, we had actually, it was just the timing, you know, you do a bunch of stuff and that's what happens in Hollywood. A lot of you do stuff and then it eventually gets released later on. But we shot that in July of 2019. That was Mirror to Society. That was Affion Crockett's comedy special.
Affion Crockett's comedy special.
Yeah. And so I was an associate producer on that. And we just got everything ready so that, you know, we could shoot it and get it packaged for you guys, all of that. And then so we did that. That's actually on Peacock, you know, TV. You guys have got to see it. Affion is hilarious. And that's another comedian, Greg, that you have seen do like movies and stuff like that. But and I will say this about it. It was Affion's very first stand-up comedy special. And a lot of people did not know or realize that he does stand up. And so that was one of the exciting things about doing, being part of the producing team for that, was because, again, I love the surprise. Like, people didn't know that Afion was a comedian, and then also that he's hilarious.
Not only is he a comedian, he was on the original Def Jam.
Yes.
And he
can dancing.
Yeah, dancing. Yep.
I'm dancing. He's from somewhere down on
the
coast, but south.
I think it's Greensboro. I think it's Greensboro, North Carolina.
It was somewhere around the Carolinas. Not saying it was a Carolina, but when I can't remember where, but in my mind,
Fayetteville. Yeah, yeah.
I think it was something that is on the East Coast in not high but down. My geography, my geography is funny. So, with all that being said, I have one more for you. Where do you see social interaction going in the next 5 years?
With like online or
like you coming back from being 100% shut down, you were probably, foaming at the mouth when you heard, man, I can go back and get my night, man. It's gonna be home. Like nobody's like, no one's like, I'm able to come back. And even though I might not be able to do it the way I used to do it, I can curate these comedic spaces and bring back some normality to like the way that we live, the way we exist. So with me working in hip hop, I was told that, like, let's say 6 months ago, I had conversations with booking agents, and I was told like 2021 near the end, we'd start doing stuff. And then maybe 2022, there was going to be so many shows that all 2022 was just going to be just like crazy. And then 2023, it was going to get a rhythm. Because, people are like, there's new artists that have come out since we've been in pandemic. So you have the older artists, then you have artists that were kind of bubbling before the pandemic. And then you have people who became popular, that are popular, that people want to see. You have venues that weren't able to make money forever because of not forever, but for 2 years they weren't able to make money.
Yeah, it seems like forever.
It's like everybody's ready to make money. So from being at home and everyone being scared to be around everybody and whatnot, to you having your night at the Comedy Store again, which I know you're kind of like, it's kind of surreal. Like wow, people are actually interacting again. We had some leveling out with the COVID, and then now it's kind of new variations or whatever, and it's going up and around or whatever. In the next 5 years, just based on what you've seen, like, where do you feel the social interaction will go? Do you think that since you've started your comedy nights, do you think people are skittish to come out? Do you think that people are so happy that they can have a space that they're just gonna kind of latch onto that and make that work? Or do you think that you'll have to also have an alternative media platform that kind of goes at the same time as what you're doing? Like, where do you, as a curator, where do you see social interaction going in the next 5 years, living with COVID? I guess that was the correct.
Yeah, living with COVID, because it's here. I think that being everywhere, you have to be everywhere now with your brand. And so, because you're going to have people on different levels. You've got just like we have right now, you have your vaccinated and you've got your unvaccinated. And with our show at the Comedy Store, when I first started back on our first show was June 24th, it was that the comedians had to be fully vaccinated as well as the audience had to be fully vaccinated. And I stuck with that. And I kind of panicked in the beginning because there were some of my favorite comedians, they weren't vaccinated. And I was like, oh shit, like, and then I was like, oh my God, like, are people not vaccinated. And so then I started making more calls and I realized, okay, there are a lot of vaccinated comedians, thank God. So but you still have some that aren't, and that also means that you have some audience who aren't vaccinated. And the Comedy Store just announced today they are making sure that they're really gonna, and Jeremy, as you know, they're gonna really make sure that the protocols are followed, which is everyone has to be fully vaccinated, because it's just the Delta variant in LA is crazy. I mean, it's here. And so with that being said, it's gonna, we know that, the Delta variant is high now and it's gonna end up dropping again. And so we see people that are like, oh my God, I don't want to go out. So they'd rather watch it online. So to be able to do, some live streaming, as well as, collecting audio, getting cameras in there, just really making sure that we're pulling out of the room now from the show, because it's so much like one of the things that we were doing before the pandemic was our podcast. We have our Crack 'em Up podcast, which was a companion podcast to the actual Thursday night show. So it was, we did 3 seasons of it. The first season was in the basement. I didn't even know I knew there was a basement at the Comedy Store, but you didn't want to go down there. But
yeah.
But then when I found out, I was like, where are these people going? I was like, found out like a year later, like there's a podcast studio down there now. And,
yeah.
And so we did probably 40 episodes from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it was every night. It was every Thursday. And it was basically, I had one host upstairs doing the show, but then downstairs it was, I had 2 podcast hosts. And then if you were on the show or, coming to visit the show, then it was, hey, come on, do the podcast. And you just come down and talk about it, whatever. And then we ended up moving to the green room, so we didn't have to go all the way downstairs. And yeah, so, but yeah, it's about, just really utilizing all these different platforms and expanding it. And even if, we're 5 years from now no longer doing, Crack 'em Up in the belly room, we'll definitely have it, on video, live stream.
It'll be available.
Audio. Yeah, because the audio is so important now. It's
yes, yeah.
People, yeah, and it's been important. The party record days with Dolomite and Red Fox and Mom's Mabley, all of them. It's like, I just really wish it had been pushed more, like through the whole like period of, comedy albums have been happening, like I said,
Richard Pryor.
Yeah, all of that, all of those. And but now it's even more. I mean, the pandemic, it's especially Black comics. We really having a digital footprint, is so important.
Which I got my comedy album out and I got a special coming out. So
see?
You know what I'm saying? That's why it's a good time to plug it.
Yeah. we need that because it we're able to create an industry. The more Black, the more Black shows, the more Black
absolutely
comedy albums. It's like then we've got an industry. It's like yeah.
Well, no, I want to thank you, Nichelle, man. This has been very educational. It's been definitely a breath of fresh air. And I wasn't even thinking about, I think about comedy every Tuesday for sure, because I'm interacting with Jeremy and I realize what he does.
Oh, it is Tuesday. Okay.
What he does is a profession, but hearing about your comedy night has me a little excited. I'm like, okay, man, I can shake that paradigm of how I felt seeing the huge production and the expectations that I put on it. And I can get myself together and I can go and just see some guys that are coming in their rawest form, very talented comedians. They might not be the largest name, might not be the smallest name, but just able to see some comedians work. Like,
yes.
That's dope.
And the ladies are like stronger than ever. I'm so proud of, you know, the female comedians. They've come a long way. And I just keep using the word, you know, just the comedy is just sophisticated now. It's really, it's intellectual. It's so many different levels because you have a lot of people that have taken up comedy as a hobby from, you know, they have degrees and stuff, you know, they've studied and they've got different perspectives on, they've traveled, and it's just, you know, they've worked in corporate America and they hate it and we hear about it.
Yeah.
It's just, but I think that I know that you'll really enjoy yourself because again, the vibe at the Comedy Store, you know, it will, at Crack 'em Up, you know, is you just come and you just chill. Just chill, you just laugh. And you'll meet Uncle Levi and anything you need. After you meet Uncle Levi, oh my God. Wait till you meet Uncle Levi.
I like the word.
Levi and his hair. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the words you use. I just looked at the definition, sophisticated. It means having, revealing, and proceeding from a great deal of worldly experience and knowledge of fashion and culture. So that's a perfect word to describe it.
Yeah. Because you guys are just on one.
Yeah, Jerry's on point, man. He can multitask. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Don't let the smooth taste fool you, man. Those typewriter fingers in Google.
Or those muscles, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You want to wear a little shirt.
That's right. Well, no, thank you, Nichelle. Anything you want to shout out and give your social media and all that kind of good stuff?
Well, you can find me at Nichelle Murdock, and that's with an N like Nancy. I think, you know, Star Trek, Nicheelles, so Nichelle Murdock. And I'm across everything, and then my brand is Crack 'em Up Comedy. So you know, go to crackemupcomedy.com and everything is on there. Thank you both for having me. And Greg, can't wait to see you cracking up at the show. And Jerry, got to book you again, you know, of course. So.
Of course.
Are you there Thursday? Are you there this week?
Yeah, I think I will be there Thursday. Yeah, I'll be there Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to I'm gonna mess this up. Theodric Davis.
Yeah. Clubhouse too. That's part of my Clubhouse family.
Okay. Yeah.
Clubhouse at Club Crack 'em Up.
And then you have Pharcyde Media. You know, familiar with them? Okay.
Now I am.
Yeah, Erica Irvin. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, my people.
Yeah. As far as me, at Jeremy Comedy. Yeah, I'll catch everybody up. But that's it. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. It's been Splendid Radio on Pharcyde.